Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Poema podcast. I am James Prescott, your host. Welcome back to the show. It's really great to have you all with us again. And I'm really excited today to welcome back a former guest for their second time on the show, Justin Ancheta. Pronouns he, him, he, they, sorry. And welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, James. It is an honor to be back. And I'm just really happy to have this conversation with you again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And Justin is sitting in the garden recording this, which is, I think, awesome with the sun out. Meanwhile, in England, it's the evening, so I'm in my room. It's dark outside. That's the time difference for you.
Gotta love that time difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's close at the moment because we just had the time we're recording. The clocks just went forward in the States, and
that's right. Yeah,
haven't gone forward in the UK as of today.
Yeah,
so, really good. Yeah, we had a problem with the time difference when we were arranging, but we managed to get it all sorted in the end. So and we're going to talk about we're going to do something really interesting today, which I think is a big question of our times, actually, which is keeping faith when things are really difficult, because we all know how things are in the world at the moment, and especially in America, but other places in the world as well. You know, Israel, Palestine, and Russia, and Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So much in the world right now, and keeping faith is difficult. So, yeah, Justin, just share a bit of your experience of this and what it's been, what the challenges you faced.
Yeah, thank you so much, James. I'd say that. I mean, I think it it goes without saying that the biggest challenge spiritually for me has been just seeing the immense shift in the tone, in the timbre, in the discourse around faith, and which has happened since the last election in the U.S. But I think really I can trace it all the way back to the beginning of the lockdowns, way back in 2020, and I remember that time being something of a kind of a renaissance moment for me, where I was really seeing communities come together. I was really starting to see people come together in ways that I never had really expected or seen in such a long time. Starting to see all of these ideas that I've been hearing and listening to and internalizing of community care, all of that coming together, that whole theme of we're all in this together. And to see all of that shift so drastically to what we're seeing now, where there is no concept of communal care. And in fact, there's almost been a backlash against it, where people are actually against communal care. We've seen that with RFK in the US, RFK Jr. in the US, and being so vociferously anti-vaccine to the point where a measles epidemic is raging. Look, I don't want to start going on into our own personal audio version of doom scrolling, but my personal challenge it really comes down to a very foundational question that I feel like a lot of people can relate to, which is, where is the faith? Where is the? I come from a Catholic Christian background, so my question, the way that it's metastasized in my own thinking, is where's the Christianity? Where is Jesus? Where is God in all of this? When up is down and down is up, and we're now supposed to think that the values that were instilled in me due to my Christian upbringing of social justice and charity and, again, communal care, like right out of scripture, pulled right out of the Bible itself, out of the New Testament. And to see all of that flipped on its head to the point where now it's like, now it is a sin to have empathy for people. I remember Mason Menenga on Twitter before I left.
Mm,
There was a lot of discussion around books that were coming out of the right wing, talking about like toxic empathy, why, quote unquote toxic empathy, why empathy is bad. And I'm just thinking, like, what what is happening? What's happened to us?
mm,
And on a spiritual level, on a on a deeper spiritual level, what's happened to us? And what's happened to me, where I'm just feeling so lost? And I'm just left with all these questions and trying to, I think we're all asking questions, and we're all kind of, in our own way, sort of stumbling around. I'm not trying to speak, of course, for other people other than myself, but I just see that a lot in my community, in my online circles,
mm,
and that's kind of how what my experience has been. It's just been just asking, where where are we? Like, it doesn't feel like we're in any kind of society that seems to adhere to what is called quote unquote Christian values.
mm,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot. So,
no, it is. I mean, it is, but it's true. I mean, I don't live in America, but obviously my wife currently does, and her family does, and uh, yeah, and obviously I follow. We all follow what happens and what's happening there, and yeah, yeah, it's just this kind of yeah. I mean that kind of loss of loss of spirit, loss of faith in ourselves, faith in humanity.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
and yeah, it's people are so cynical now, and I'm a kind of hopeful person generally, uh,
Hmm.
and not toxic hope or toxic optimism or toxic
Yeah.
positivity because I don't think that's helpful either. Like, but real hope, which is often grounded in suffering and real life.
Hmm.
But sometimes it's been difficult for me to find hope, and because it's just got so bad, and you think like this can't get any worse, but it does, and so many people are suffering, and it makes me sad that there's a generation of people that are growing up as cynics, and
Mm.
I that makes me sad, and I
Yeah.
understand why.
Yeah.
I do understand why, absolutely, completely. I probably would grow up a cynic if I was growing up in the last 20 years, but I think that's sad, because I think there's a nuance in there where, okay, maybe healthy skepticism is good.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's healthy. Good critical thinking skills, uh, but also not getting overwhelmed by the point where you just assume the worst in every situation, uh,
Yeah.
in every circumstance, and just it's just yeah, it is really sad, and certainly it is. I can imagine. I mean, it's hard to have any kind of faith in some kind of higher power, any kind, whether it's the God of the Bible or it's another religion.
Hmm.
Like, it must be really hard because it's like, well, I mean, I struggle with it. I've struggled with it a lot because one of the reasons I really struggled with Christianity and you know looked at a wider spirituality than just one religion was because I couldn't understand how a God that loves us would allow this to happen.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
father, like a loving father, doesn't let does everything to protect their children, right? When they're
Yeah.
when they're under threat or unsafe or whatever. And it never made logical sense to me that
Hmm.
there was just nothing, and it was just getting worse and worse. And yeah, that's always been a question that I've struggled with. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that I strongly feel like these questions are things that we always are always grappling with in some form or another, in some way or 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 another. And I want to really, I think, emphasize that I think this, as discomforting and as painful as these questions can be, they're important. They're
Mm,
important questions to have because we need to be asking questions. I mean, uh, above all things, we were given an intelligence. We were given the capacity to think and ration and understand and internalize the world in ways to help us better comprehend the messages for being that we are taking inside of us. And so that's why questioning is, I think, such an important part of the spiritual journey. And
yes.
it's so, well, I mean, as you said, sad that a lot of people, I mean, you have folks who either on one side who either quash that questioning entirely, or they just insulate themselves from it. And you know, talking about cynicism and talking about this idea of God as the loving Father, and how could he allow any of these things to happen? I It just got me thinking, as you were saying that we're getting these messages about God as this supreme. We're all raised to some degree or another. When we are raised in even as more spiritually agnostic, is we're just pervasively in this Christian culture where God is seen as this, I don't know, Zeus like old man in the sky who punishes you if you do wrong and rewards you if you do good. And if something bad happens to you, well, obviously you did something wrong to deserve it. And if good stuff happens to you, well, clearly you're a good person inside, irrespective of what you actually do in your day to day life. And I, like, for me, I I see that often expressed in the context of a culture that is very heteropatriarchal,
Mm,
is very imperialistic and white supremacist, is extremely toxic and highly repulsive, like, who find people like
mm,
us, people in the ace community, people in the queer community, repulsive.
mm,
And it is focused on so much on gathering and maintaining and holding and exerting power over other people, when, if you go back to script to the New Testament, if you go back to scripture and you see, how Jesus himself acted, he acted as someone who gave away his power, who never used his power in a way that where he was trying to exact or express dominance over others.
mm,
And so that's kind of part of it. I think part of it is there is, I think, a growing, accelerating need to rethink faith, to rethink what religion and spirituality means outside of um, outside of what is so often taught and reinforced in churches by out of touch people who just don't understand what reality is. And reality is not like a super heteronormative like picket fence white cis family. It is, reality is messy and reality is complicated and reality is nuanced. Reality is a poly a polycule of people trying to figure out how to
mm,
find housing in a market in a city that is pricing them out of their own home. It is a lesbian couple dealing with mental health issues. It is, you know,
mm,
it's bi people trying to find their identity in a space where monosexuals can be so hostile, and so on and so forth. Um,
mm.
and I think through it all, well, I think through it all, it really is our love for each other, and seeing the value and the beauty in other people, and giving room for people to surprise us.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, and I think also another big part of it too is learning that we are not as beholden to people. I mean, this seems a little bit contradictory, but we're recognizing that as close as we need to be to other people, we're also free to let people go if we have to, if we need to. And
Mm,
looking after ourselves is really first and foremost one of the most, well, I would argue, one of the most sacred, one of the most holy things we can do for each other. And when I mean taking care of ourselves, I mean really fostering, really nurturing that spirit of self-love and self-compassion where
mm,
we we are okay with making mistakes. We try to take accountability for the harm that we cause to other people, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
mm,
Recognizing that sometimes the hurt we cause can't be fixed, can't be repaired, and we just have to learn from that.
mm.
And again, that's messy.
Yeah.
That's that's messy, and
Yeah.
it doesn't fit into a neat little binary set of narratives. Um, and I'm kind of, I think if there's one thing that I hope people take away from our conversation, it's that our most sacred and holy duties to ourselves. It's to show up for ourselves, really, and that could mean saying the rosary. It could mean doing a candle meditation. It could mean doing a tarot reading. It could just mean taking a walk, going outside, and just
Yeah.
removing yourself from
Yeah. It's
the toxicity of people, the toxicity of social media.
yeah.
Um,
Mm. Oh, that's so
yeah.
true. It's been what you said really resonates because I mean the last week or so here where I live has been really sunny and warm, and
Mm,
I've been able to go outside in the garden. I've been able to go out for a walk, and it's so strange. Like one morning I woke up, I was just really depressed, but I
yeah.
got up, I got dressed, showered, whatever. I went outside for a walk, and it just changed everything. Honestly, my body completely
Wow.
responded to it. It was the fresh
Mm,
air, the sunlight, the breeze, the grass. Like it just, I don't know, it did something to me. It regulated me. It got me out of my head, and
yeah.
I just felt this connection to everything around me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
spiritual experience, really, when you think about it. Like, and it was just like, oh, this is so much better than going to my room and just doom scrolling, like
Yep.
and getting depressed about everything. Like, just
Yeah.
simple things, like can make that difference. Like, I actually was thinking of a quote from The Hobbit,
Hmm.
from Gandalf, and he said that he says, "I found it is in the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay.
Oh,
Small
yes.
acts of kindness and love."
Yes.
Like that's like I just I love that quote.
And I, yeah,
And
yeah.
that includes to yourself, like not just to other people.
Hmm.
All acts of self love and self kindness, and maybe that's what that was. My experience. But
Yeah.
I think that's very powerful.
I think those tiny acts really do have such power. And, taking us to the Hobbit, right? Like, we see how tiny acts can enact massive world-changing things that that just ripple outward. And those ripples, and in zooming in back into our own individual lives, those ripples can be small, and that's fine. Like, those ripples can be large too, and that's also fine. But yeah, like, we just have to try to, in the face of such overwhelming darkness, I think taking comfort in those small acts is is really what will save us. Um, because as someone who kind of, I guess on social media at least, try to like dip his toes into activism and stuff like that, it
Mm,
not having had nearly the experience of other people, but I've had a small taste of how overwhelming it can feel, and
yeah,
just how vast. And yeah, I doing the little things that we can is enough. And it can be, even at a base level, it doesn't even have to be necessarily manifested as uh, this is kind of where my mind is, but like giving money to someone's GoFundMe or things like that, which of course is also important and also really nice. But something like writing writing your own art, making your own art, being creative, or
yeah,
as you said, going out for a walk. Um, because yeah, like the kind of change that we enact in ourselves, I think, affects the kind of change that we enact in our greater world. And it's yeah, it's in those small things that we do for ourselves and for other people, when we can, that really make the most difference. Um, every I going on the Bluesky,
mm,
especially last month, I heard a lot of the chatter, a lot of the talk was about what can we do? We have to do something. What can we do? And yeah, I think the only thing that we can do is to just show up for each other
mm,
and show up for ourselves. I know I'm kind of talking. I know I feel like I'm talking in circles here. I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's just something that's just so easily forgotten amidst the noise of the world and social media. And um, gosh, there was a point that I wanted to return to. Oh yeah, you talking about going outside. I in a spiritual sense, at least, we weren't made, we weren't designed, we weren't made for being in a being in a room all day long, staring at a phone or a computer screen. And I'm one to talk because I'm a writer, and that's
mm,
90% of what I do. Butt in chair, staring at a screen, trying to get words on a page. And oh wow, that difference. I mean, even just now, I spent most of my morning, most of my day up until now, literally in a basement room, staring at a screen, trying to get words on a page. And being outside and then being with you has been a reminder of just how connected I am to so many things around me,
Hmm.
and how connecting with the environment can is just really restorative. It's restorative. It's been healing in ways that are just really hard to quantify in words.
Hmm.
And it just takes me back to this idea that at least on a spiritual level, we um, even though we often don't think like we are, we really are connected. We really do share a collective spirit, whether it's Jung's a collective unconscious, or some kind of permutation form of that. And in recognizing that connection, we can learn to be tender, a little more tender towards ourselves and more tender towards other people as well.
Hmm.
I think a big part of that step is other people, is recognizing that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky to be part of a really good community, online community, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not hierarchical. We don't have to all agree on everything.
Yeah, yeah,
We just love each other where we are and support each other on our journeys. And there's a lot of intersections between our journeys, but they're not all the same. And there's no judgment. There's no feeling of fear. There's no
that's
social
powerful.
exclusion. It's all
Yeah,
we create the community ourselves.
yeah,
We don't have to
we
get
do.
permission from anybody to do things. If you want to have a call do an event with other people in the community, we just do it. We don't have to ask permission from a leader. We just do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that has been very regulating for me, and my body, very much so. And
Mm.
I've had it for 4.5 years now, and it's life saving. It's amazing, and I know how fortunate I am to have that because it's very rare, and yeah, I think healthy community is so important. I was living alone for a long time,
Mm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and because I had a really difficult last few months, living on my own was becoming more difficult and more stressful. And I was in my head a lot, and you know, didn't have anyone living close by that I could go and see. But then I got invited to live with a couple of close relatives back in my hometown where I grew up, and
Mm-hmm.
here I am, and I've got people here with me. I go downstairs and see them every evening, and we catch up and we chat and hang out, and just having that has allowed me to get out of my head.
Yeah,
Like having that safe, healthy community. And I'm fortunate with my birth family that most of us get on really well, uh,
yeah, yeah.
we really support each other. So yeah, and I know how fortunate I am with that too. So yeah, absolutely, community is so important. That if we get stuck in our heads too much, it can be damaging for our emotional health,
Mm-hmm.
mental, physical health. We need people, we need each other.
We
In a
do.
healthy sense,
Yeah.
not in a codependent kind of sense, but we need each other from a
Mm-hmm.
human sense. We need accountability. We need people to check in on us, so that if we're not doing well, we've got someone to talk to. So whatever, we're human beings. We're not meant to do life on our own. We're meant to do it in community. And yeah, I definitely experienced that in real time in the last few months.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful that you've gotten access to that. I'm so grateful that you've been able to be a part of that, because that's huge. And what you said reminded me of my experience early in my ACE journey. Well, really early in the journey, where I kind of I don't know, became more of a quote unquote eclectic Christian. Started to discover myself as being bi and ace. Um, I remember being very alone in that journey, and figuring a lot of this out through the internet, through books I'd read, and what really kind of, I don't know, brought me out of my head, as you say, um, was going out to tarot meetups and meeting other people who were doing tarot, and talking about tarot, and their experience with it. And I got to know some amazing people through that. And out of that, um, yeah, I found more of myself. And on that topic, like I want to give a special shout out, if you don't mind, to Matt Nightingale on Twitter.
Oh,
Uh,
Matt Nightingale's been a guest on this show, so
oh,
we love
lovely.
him.
Yeah,
We love him. He's
that's
great.
great. Yeah, yeah. They've been running. I mean, as you know, they've been running a regular group on Mondays.
Yeah.
Every other week is a queer and allies evening, and then the alternating Mondays from that are queer only nights. And man, like, just always one of those things where it's like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Got a
Mm,
plan, but then got other things to do. And when I was feeling really in the depths of grappling with my anxiety, my ADHD, all of these things we've been talking about th- this past this past um, uh, time, just feeling overwhelmed, I really decided, I put my foot down and said, like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna attend a Monday night, and I'm gonna commit to it. And it was such a beautiful experience for me, kind of being in communion with people in a way that I really hadn't before. I've been going to the Zoom church sessions, live streamed over, well, first Zoom, but now YouTube. Um, the, the live streamed services on my church, and it's great. It's an affirming church. Reverend JJ Mastrandea of Manor Road United Church in Toronto, Ontario, has been, a wonderful community for me, an affirming church. Um, but and as valuable as that is for me, there is something else to be said for being in a room, whether it be in person or virtual, with other people sharing their struggles, sharing their joys and their challenges, and just sharing their experience of being human. Um, and I went to the session, to the meeting last week, and I went again this week. And as I said to Matt, like, during the during the oh god, I'm gonna get this wrong. Uh, the divine reading, the Divinio Recta. Anyway, sorry for getting uh, that wrong. But it, it was a reading of a passage, of a very spiritually impactful passage. It
mm,
was four times, and there was a
mm.
chance for us to kind of soak it in each time.
Oh, yeah, I've done that. It's powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it is. And I swear I could feel the volume on my anxiety just dialing down, dialing
Mm,
down. Right. Yeah. Right. Just like that. And I was just feeling, I was feeling not like my anxiety was gone, but it was just there. But it was like, okay. It was like, oh, here's that anxious part of me, that anxious Justin, and they're actually feeling better. They're feeling better. They're present and they're feeling better. And to me, that was just so impactful. It really was. And for other queer ace folks out there who are looking for community, looking for a place to meet other people, I really hope that you get a chance to connect to communities like that. If you follow Matt Nightingale, or listen to James podcast episode where he hosts Matt, um,
I should really get.
because
I could really get Matt
yeah,
on the show. I really should.
yeah.
I think
um,
another one of my friends goes to that community as well. Jenna.
Jenna, yeah, oh yeah,
She's been a
yeah.
regular guest on this show, and will be again, I'm sure. Yeah, really good friend of the show and of me as well. Yeah, she's great too. So yeah, fantastic. I mean, I love that. I mean, I would have gone to that community before, but it's the thing is, it happens at like 2 a.m. You know,
Oh yeah,
UK time.
yeah.
Like,
No, it's
otherwise, I would have gone before now because it, and certainly would have done during lockdown because yeah, it sounds like an amazing community. So
yeah.
wonderful. I mean, like those kind of that kind of experience. I've had that kind of experience before where you meditate on a passage of scripture and you must immerse yourself in it.
Mm-hmm.
And every
Mm-hmm.
time you hear it, you feel something, and you kind of you're more present in the story. And there is something very sacred about that. Something very
Mm.
soothing. Yeah, yeah,
I What I love about that is it's slow. it's I'm thinking of like the analogy to, and I apologize because I just love to just torture analogies, but like I think of like slow food, Jamie Oliver's concept of slow food, and I compare that to how I've I've been to I've been to like traditional evangelical churches, like, well, like the kind of modern evangel evangelical expression of church. I find everything is so fast. Everything is fast. There's like the fast rock songs, and there's, just seems fast. But times like that, going through that passage of scripture or that piece of writing 4 times, gives you the space to slow down. And even if we're not in a spiritually unhealthy environment, just being in today's world where everything is happening and change is happening so quickly, like in Canada, for example, where I'm living, we're dealing with Trump and trade tariffs, and the potential effect on the cost of living. And it's like, are are there tariffs, or are there not tariffs? It feels like every
yeah,
other day
yeah,
Trump is changing his mind on whether or not to put
yeah,
tariffs on Canadian goods. And it's stressful again, because you just know that it's going to show up as higher groceries, higher cost of living,
yeah,
all of that. And it's just so fast. But then places like your community, James, or going outside, as you said, James, or being in communities like Matt's, just they they make you slow down. And in that slowness, I believe very strongly we can have that kind of space where we can show ourselves the compassion. We can show up for ourselves, um, in the ways that help us heal. Um, yeah.
mm, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's such a simple,
Mm,
such a simple thing, isn't it?
it is simple and
Uh,
yet so powerful.
yeah. I mean, it's just I love that whole idea of simplicity and just finding goodness and love and hope in the small, simple things.
Mm,
You know, like life seems so much simpler when you're in those when you kind of bring it down to that level of just simple things, doing being kind, being polite, being
yeah,
just saying to someone that you're there for them. You know,
yeah.
uh, asking someone over a cup of tea, or like just. And it doesn't mean those big things don't matter, or that they're going to disappear, or that they don't affect us. It's just that, like, I think, like, if you get too immersed in those big things, you can be completely overwhelmed and defeated, and you
Yes.
can't even live.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Right? So
Yes.
like, there's that
Yeah.
kind of balance of like, yes, I need to be aware of what's happening in the world. I need to be conscious of it, and all that kind of thing, and doing what I can in any little small way to make things better. Like, but at the same time, I need to also kind of take myself out of that for a minute and have healthy community, and be kind to myself in simple ways, and and remember that you're worth something, that you're worth taking care of, you're worth taking time for,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something
Mm-hmm.
I've struggled with, honestly, but I think it's something a lot of people struggle with. But I like just taking that time out of everything to take care of yourself, and like, and do what you can do what's in our power to do, like, and that can be just the simple things.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the big things. For some people, it's the big things, and that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
you need people to do the big things, but not everyone can do the big things. Like, I don't have the emotional capacity, like, to be, or the energetic capacity to be someone who's out there doing big things in the world all the time. Like, because that would just drain their life out of me. I just wouldn't, I'd burn out.
Yeah.
But some people are able to do that, and that's great. And we should support those people when they do that. But like, and so we just do what we can, and not feel shame about that, not feel shame about, or guilt about, oh, I can't do all these big things.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can. We're human beings. We're finite. We have limited energy, limited lifespan, uh, limited capacity, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just knowing your own limits and boundaries, and doing what you can, and starting with the simple things, because the simple things, if you do them regularly, then maybe you can do more. Maybe you can do a bit more,
Mm.
and maybe that's how you build up resilience. You know.
It is. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I think that's been the theme today. Is just that kind of. It all starts with that simple act of loving yourself well, and then loving others well in
Mm.
your community. That's not many people. It doesn't have to be many people. And then that when you do that, that nurtures you, it makes you healthier, and then maybe you have more energy for other things. But don't sacrifice yourself trying to carry the whole world on your shoulders, because none of us can do that.
Yeah. For
So
sure. Yeah. I love that, James. I really do. I think you've said that so eloquently and so well.
thank you.
And yeah, no, well, it really got me thinking about how, like, one of the greatest lessons I've learned from spending time with the tarot, and I've also seen this pattern come out as well in in the expression of Christianity, is balance. That we need to live a balanced life, and balance meaning that we make room for ourselves and we make room for other people. And in our capitalist, resource limited society, it's so. I know that for me, I feel terrible. I remember, I still do feel terrible when I see tons of these mutual aid requests come up on my social media feed.
Yeah,
And there's just so many people in my community, people I know
same,
personally,
absolutely same.
needing
Yeah,
help
yeah,
to fend off starvation, to fend off homelessness, and then people in Gaza, of course, people in Ukraine, and thinking like, God, like I wish I had, if only I had the money, I would just be giving everything I had to these people.
yeah, same,
But then
exactly.
also thinking like, but at the same time, with the resources that I have, even when I did have money, I was still I had to put food on the table. I had to afford medication for myself. I had to, like, um, and it's a hard mental habit to break out of. Um, but I still firmly believe it is worth the effort to have those healthy boundaries and to express those boundaries with love and say that I have to protect the resources I need for myself. I think time and energy, especially being first and foremost. And as going back to what you said earlier, you know, as one person, I can only do so much. And that's okay because it's such a common thing in a lot of activist circles that I've seen where people just give so much of themselves and they have nothing left for themselves, that burnout happens, that people just get burned out.
Hmm.
um, and it's so tragic people, when people get burned out, they're hurting, so bad, and we're losing people from the fight. We're losing that energy. We're losing people with their skills and experience and knowledge. And so again, like, those little things that we've been talking about over and over again, those little tiny things that help us to show up for ourselves on a spiritual level, on a material level. Um, like, I feel like that is that is magic. That is an articulation of the will and love of the divine, of God, of Jesus in our lives. Because it's really those special acts, those really, really tiny acts, that we see where God is the most, that we experience magic the most.
I love that word.
Um,
I love the word magic. Brilliant.
yeah, I mean,
Wonderful. Mm.
one of the coolest things about working in a in a metaphysical shop is just really appreciating that the magic isn't in a deck of tarot cards or in crystals or in
Mm.
oils or amulets or in candles. It's in you. The magic is inside of you, and all of those things are tools to help bring that out and to help manifest that in the world. That's what the magician in the tarot card tells us, that as above, so below, in as it is in ourselves, as it is in the world around us, we are making magic. We are helping to bring about the will of God, the will of the divine in the world. And that is not just in those big acts, as we've been saying. It's in those really tiny things, the things we do for ourselves first and foremost, and the things we do for others. Uh, yeah.
Thank you so much. That's powerful. Brilliant.
Mm,
I love that. Love that. That feels like a good place to kind of end, like that kind of
mm,
rallying call of magic and love and hope. Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
Thank you,
Well,
Justin.
thank you. Yeah.
And just where can people find you online?
Yeah, so I'm my website, which is still very much a work in progress, is justinanchettawriter.com. And that I'll make sure that that's in the show notes. My main social media presence is on Bluesky right now. I am janchetta25 dot bsky.social, I think is how they do that now. And
Yeah,
also, I'm on Medium, janchetta25 on Medium, and that's where my Asexuality and the Tarot series is. Um, I'm working right now currently on a memoir in pieces about my experience. Well, it was going to be about my experience at the intersection of disability, race, and queerness, but now it's turning into a memoir in pieces about my dad and my experience with him, because he taught me a lot about life. in good ways and bad. And yeah, so that's kind of where I am, and I'm sure James will put all of that in the show notes.
100%. Yeah, big fan of your work. So yeah, 100%. Thank you, and do check out Justin's work and follow him. Them. Sorry. Follow them. It's yeah, excellent stuff. Thank you, Justin,
Thank you, James. Yeah.
and thanks for listening, everyone.